Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody. Oh, hell yeah.
Welcome to Let Me Tell You Something, Brother, the pro wrestling show here at 21.6 The Net. Of course, this show is all about wrestling, the ins, the outs, the ups and downs, the storylines, you name it. These two brothers know what's happening. Of course, Tim Santos is a host as well, along with Tom Odell. And, of course, this show brought to you through the financial support of our good friends over at the Santos Agency and Tom's Productions. Guys, welcome in.
Thank you for joining us out there in the 216 The Net world.
Yeah, we're excited, man. I know it's the weeks have just flown by since our, silent premiere, but we did pretty good.
We came in slow, right?
Yeah. Slow, but the buzz is picking up, and more people are watching and streaming us every day.
I had so much good feedback on it. It was great. They're like, "Oh yeah," and like I said, I was having conversations today with people. I'm like, "You got to tune in," and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Listen, tell me a time." And I had one guy telling me about when he was getting in an elevator, and all of a sudden he hears, Hold that elevator, brother. And there's Hogan getting on the elevator with him. He's just like, he goes, you see him in the ring and they're huge. He goes, he was in street clothes and you could tell this was later in his career, maybe even after he's retired. But he goes, you could tell he's put that body through a lot.
Just him moving. Just when you watch Hogan walk now, it's just
at least he does back surgeries. He's had. It's like a record amount of back surgeries. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Anyways, Uncle Pete saw him at the McHenry Scramble, which was pretty awesome. But he was just like smiling ear to ear, very excited about this and the possibilities. So
talking about the old school wrestlers too. It's it brings out the inner child in all of us. Yeah. And it's our escape from reality. It's just something different, and it's always been ours in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I've tried to transfer that passion down to my kids. My oldest son, he loves it. He's 14 though, so sometimes Dad, he's got his own thing going on. But my daughter, she loves Alexa Bliss, and on my timeline on Facebook right now, 4 years ago when my youngest was born, just to kind of keep him occupied and quiet, just put him in his bouncer and put on 1992 SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, whatever it is, and he would just sit there in awe. So it's pretty cool to see that translate to my kids and stuff too. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. You're lucky with that because my kids won't watch it. They'll wrestle with me, and we'll do our theme songs, wear costumes or whatever, and wrestle in the living room. They love that part of it, but actually having them sit down and watch it. Maybe my youngest daughter will watch it with me once in a while. She'll get in awe of some of the characters, but the older boys, they just never got into it. And it's just, and it's almost heartbreaking for me because that's one of my greatest bonds I had with my dad. And here it's yes, I'm going to have these boys, and I have a picture of them when they're 5 or 6 jumping off the coffee table, and they're little underoos or whatever, and doing elbow splashes on me, frog splashes on me, and it was fun. But but for them to watch it, I try to get them to watch WrestleMania and the pay-per-view. They just tune it out. I'm I don't know what's going on with you. Are you guys my kids or what?
You're probably the dad that was hey, shut up, quiet down.
Pretty much. This is it. Did you see that?
Yeah, right. Get in here.
And now they get upset. Wednesday we'll come home from basketball or baseball or football or whatever, and I'll turn on AEW or Monday. If I have them on a Monday, we'll watch Raw, and they'll be upset because Dad's watching wrestling, can't get the TV.
Oh yeah, my kid's the same way. Sally's it's 7:00 and it's Monday. Got to change the channel. Dad's got to put on wrestling, and Yeah, so it's kind of just the rule of the house. Wrestling's on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and they're like, well, what day is it not on? And I'm thinking like, well,
I got the
technically,
network, man. I got Peacock, so wrestling can be always be on.
always
the
be on.
time, right? Yeah,
All
I
the
got
time.
it too. Yeah.
We are a wrestling household, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
all the documentaries and stuff, it's
Yeah.
just like reels you in when you hear the backstories of everybody.
Mhm.
You know,
That's
it's
the way to
pretty-
do it. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Anyway,
So-
so what's the hot topic this week in wrestling, Tom?
So for me, it's the whole what WWE is doing with Kevin Owens. His contract, as some of you know, these wrestlers, they're like any other athlete. They sign a few-year deal, a couple years deals on their contracts. And his is coming up, and it's looking like he's not going to re-sign. I think his is up sometime in January. And a lot of times what these promotions will do when a guy is not going to re-sign with them, they try to, what the term is, bury them. They have them start losing matches that they usually would win or dominate in. And now with what they're doing, they're trying to turn them heel. And I think the fans they could see the BS that WWE is doing, and they don't like when they wrong someone.
Yeah.
Similar to like what they were doing with Daniel Bryan many years ago, and it turned on them. So they're doing the same thing with KO.
Yeah. I really like Kevin Owens. Matter of fact, when I dress similar to him on a normal daily basis around the house. And my daughter, when she was, a couple years ago, she's like, "Dad, he looks just like you." And I'm like, of course, the potbelly wrestlers that I look like with the beard, but that's okay because he's pretty cool. Anyway, so I like him. But yeah, as history shows, when people are on their way out, they kind of get made to look not as good as
Not
they
as
are,
powerful
not
or-
as powerful, make them not as popular. So it's either there's truth to that, or it's just like our feeling of it.
Right.
Like you feed into the gossip and the rumors, and well, Vince McMahon or the company or whatever is doing this to them, and I don't know that that's actually true because it is his product. So if he's putting a popular wrestler on TV and then making them look not as good, does it hurt their product by doing it? Because they're not putting on a good wrestling show then either. So I don't know. Maybe it's just like some sort of feeling about it. I don't know.
And,
What's up, Nelson? Thanks for joining in.
yeah, I mean, and like
Hey, Nelson.
recently they had 10 more roster cuts, and it doesn't make any sense. Like Keith Lee was on fire in NXT. And when I brought him to Raw, I mean, he was already over. Like when they had the Royal Rumble where him and Brock are face to face, you could feel that electricity. And Vince just drops the ball over and over again with these guys.
Yeah. So if you don't follow wrestling as much as we do, so occasionally, well, more than occasionally now, there's these big roster cuts, 10, 12, 15, 20 people at a time, just all of a sudden, wish you well on your future endeavors, right? That's that's the finishing move, basically. Right. And when I look at those as a business owner, like you got these people who maybe just aren't performing how you pictured them to be. A couple of the stars, you would anticipate their stars because of what they've done thus far. But there's usually 80%, 90% of that list, well, you haven't even seen them on TV and who knows how long. They're not doing anything. And to me, my perception would be, well, you let them go on and go be in another, whether it's Impact or TNA or whatever it is,
New Japan,
to go try to be a star somewhere else because they're just not like living up to maybe the expectations of the boss. So, WWE, I think they had like a record $300 million profit last year.
Right after all those cuts.
Lots of money. And all of these cuts are budget reasons.
Sure.
And people look at that money and they're like, well, you've had a record year. Why are you cutting people? But again, from a business perspective, in order to maintain that leverage and maybe bring other people in, you make cuts.
But who are they bringing in? And who are they developing now? And that's where that's my issue. It's like Karrion Kross. He had a great gimmick in NXT. They bring him up and put him in a cheap demolition mask, and he even hated it, and the crowd hated it, and they could sense like this gimmick sucks.
Yeah,
but Vince is probably the best at what he does, right? And he's the best promoter
Ever, yeah.
that this nation's ever seen, maybe the world has ever seen, right? So, all right, so Kevin Owens, we heal him out. We know he's not going to sign his contract because we're trying to keep him cheap or whatever the case may be. He's going to end up going where? To the competition.
Right.
AEW,
Likely.
more than likely, come in, bad mouth. And when does Vince shine? Vince shines when his back's against the wall. Simple as that, right? And so now you got Owens leaving, and he's going to go to the competitor and start talking shit. And now all of a sudden Vince is like, now we got a story. We got a little fight back and forth. Here we go, right?
Yeah.
What drives more to the bottom line.
Yeah. And that's where I think we were talking too. Is like, is Vince doing some of these cuts on purpose to force these other companies to sign these guys to undevelop their other characters and kind of take them from them?
So, there may be like a evil genius behind this whole situation where I'm going to cut you and you go build your star power over there.
Back, baby.
Guess
Like
what?
you did with McIntyre.
Number 28 in Royal Rumble 5 years from now, here comes Kevin Owens back, wins the Royal Rumble, and he's in, boom.
Yeah.
Just like Drew McIntyre.
Right.
So, there's definitely a method to the madness.
Listen, let's be honest. Everybody hates Tom Brady because he wins all the time, right?
Mhm.
And if your product wins all the time, now you got to lose a few, right?
Right.
And say, okay, here we go. And that's what Vince is brilliant at.
Yep.
And that's what Jericho and the boys over at AEW are trying to figure out too is, okay, we've got good storylines. Here we go. But now it's that we can start ramping up a little bit. But again, to your point, right? Where is it? Hey, listen.
But they're falling into old WCW trap now.
Yeah. Right.
They're getting the big names and they're not developing their younger guys that made them successful.
Right.
Yeah. So, the other thing about that is he could be flooding the market, right? So what are you going to do? You got all this money, Tony Khan, the president and owner of AEW. Well, here's 30 of my stars that everyone believes could be a star if they're given the right platform. You pay them. Good luck. Yeah. Let's see what happens. And then, so again, the evil genius part, maybe he's sinking their ship, putting all these stars over there. Yeah. What are you going to do with all these people? You have half the time on television that I do. What are you going to do with all these people? And it's kind of showing right now. The ratings are slipping for AEW. Some of that, like we were talking about earlier, you're bringing
main event matches to start the show.
So you tune in for 10 or 15 minutes and you can go ahead and change the channel and you didn't miss anything.
Like the Eddie Kingston, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson match just a couple weeks ago. They showed it. Like match of Star Dynamite. After that, ratings and viewership just dropped. You lose interest. If you start your main event right away, what's the point of watching the rest of the show?
Right. That's what I learned long ago. I mean, Vince is a genius. Listen, I don't care. And now, Triple H is, of course, falling into those footsteps, and he's probably the heir to the throne or whatever. But you're kind of like, all right, what he's calculated, and he's got it figured out, and he's sitting there smoking his cigar.
So I think that we've, when the character of Mr. McMahon was created, I think that what we truly believe that Vince McMahon is that character,
right?
And really, behind the scenes, I don't believe that he's actually that guy.
No.
So
he's
when you watch,
shy, quiet,
right? When you watch documentaries, the backstories, and you see his interaction with people, look, it's a cutthroat business. If you're not selling T-shirts, which is probably the reason why Keith Lee is cut, they're not selling merchandise.
Oh, well, I'll never buy Bearcat. Who's going to buy that?
What if it said Keith Lee or Keith Bearcat Lee? I'm not spending $25 on that shirt.
Beast incarnate Brock Lesnar. Sold.
Yeah, sold. Because you know why? Because they customize it. Suplex City, Chicago, Illinois on the back. You want that shirt.
Right.
So there's a lot to it, a lot more than just viewers, and there's a lot of potential with these wrestlers. But they're never going to see that if they continue with WWE. They have to be let go so they can go and shine somewhere else and sink or swim.
And get bigger and just perfect their moveset and persona.
Yep. So I think that all those cuts are purposeful, obviously intentional, and there's a reason more so than just finances behind it.
Yep. Hey, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
And that's so when I was growing up, right, you had
Mhm.
Georgia Championship Wrestling,
Mhm.
that's where Dusty Rhodes,
Right.
and so you had all these other smaller ones. Well, the WWE has become that's the NBA, that's the NFL, that's the big show, right? Now AEW is coming in, but now we're starting to see more branches, so that there's more development, more people getting back involved, knowing that, hey, I can go to a smaller brand and create, perfect my
Right.
moves and create a story to then be seen by the big leagues,
Yep.
right? And for a while it wasn't. You either made the big leagues or you didn't, and that's where it kind of settled down a little bit over the last few 10 years or whatever, right? Because WWE is so big, and that was the end all be all. And if you wanted to get in, you had to get into their farm league, right? And their development system.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing great talent and new people coming in, and I think we see a new life coming in to the sport. Like, we loved seeing the big guys back in the day just beat each other with chairs and drop them off the top of cages. And then all of a sudden we liked, the Hardy Boys who were doing flips and frog splashes and, winging around like,
Which was funny because like the WWE crowd never saw that before, but like ECW people, they lived with that.
They lived with it, right?
They knew it. And so, when that product crossed over as, oh, this is different. I kind of like that. But then they toned it down in certain ways.
But what we got to do is we got to get rid of the 60 and 70-year-old guys.
This is true.
With their walker, right? Sting's coming back. He's 95 years old.
Hey, Sting can still move, whatever.
He's got his face paint. You can't tell how old he is. He's got, thinning. His hair's thinning.
And God bless him, because at 62, I can't do what he's doing, right?
Right.
I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
And he was forced to retire a few years ago and was able to come back and take it all.
That's it.
Yep, exactly. So there's a lot of talk, obviously, a lot of competition right now between the brands. That's pretty much what blows up any sort of wrestling social media topic. You put a picture of Roman Reigns, you get the AEW guys, that guy's crap, blah, blah, blah. Put a picture of CM Punk, WWE guys, he's not drawing nobody. What a waste.
Yeah.
But one thing I know for sure is that every wrestler has dreamed of
holding the belt,
holding that one.
Yep.
Tom's belt, actually. That was the dream.
This was the dream. That's still my dream.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the AEW championship, not the Impact Wrestling championship, not the TNA championship. Right. They grew up
not with the spinner.
They want
maybe the big gold. Maybe the big gold.
Maybe, yes. I'll give you that. WCW.
But the wing belt, I mean, that you had Brett, you had Hogan, you had Macho Man, Warrior, Shawn Michaels, even Austin. I think Austin was the one where it transitioned to the more as like a modern eagle. Is when he got it. They changed it up a little bit. Then you had the smoking skulls.
The Rock had the Brahma Bowl championship.
Bowl,
Started customizing it. But I would say that, look, if it goes the other way and AEW gets too big for their britches and they need to start letting talent go, WWE says you can come over here, they would jump to it. You want to be the world heavyweight champion in WWE.
Well, and that's where I think years ago that was true, but then when you look what the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega did, they had an opportunity to come to WWE, and they saw what WWE was doing to talent that wasn't grown and developed with them. They try to bury you. Like, look what they did with Sting when he came over. Finally, after so many years, he comes in and jobs to Triple H at WrestleMania, and then loses to Seth Rollins. Like, what was his record? Like 0-3 or something. I think he had one. I think he beat the Big Show. That was like his only win in WWE.
It's a big win.
And
that's a big one.
But the way how they treat the Big Show, then it's like how you have all these little guys being the Big Show. It's like he's a giant. He's Captain Insano.
Right.
Like,
huge.
But
anyhow,
whatever happened to Big John Studd?
Andre didn't like him.
He sure did he? You're stepping over the top of the rope. The
question came up today on Twitter, I believe it was. Maybe it was yesterday. Who won the Royal Rumble when you were born? Now, I've got my Royal Rumble shirt on here, and I'm too old for, wasn't around when I was born. WrestleMania wasn't even around yet when I was born. But Big John Studd won, I think, the second one.
Shows now?
Hacksaw Jim Duggan won the first one.
Hacksaw Jim
Hacksaw.
Duggan.
Oh,
Big John Studd won the second one, and people are like, "Who the hell is Big John
Right.
Studd?"
Yeah.
But-
remember
My age showed. People are like, "Oh, Triple H won his first one." I'm like,
what?
How old are you?
Right.
16? Jesus.
that? That's amazing.
What
Yeah.
else is going on, Tom?
Oh, what else is going on right now in wrestling? Let's talk about I don't like what AEW is doing with CM Punk. He's always been against the part timer.
Mhm.
He's always been against the older guys burying the younger guys,
Yep.
and they're having him come out. What is he? Mid-40s. Hasn't wrestled in 7 years, and he's just pretty much dominating these younger guys and
Yep.
not helping build their characters. Like, he's not putting anyone over, and putting them over is making younger guys look better, and they're going to be the new superstars. And he's become what he's always despised.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And you know, they're beating a dead horse here with him too. Every Dynamite, every Rampage, you know, CM Punk's
Yeah.
coming up to talk. CM
CM Punk.
Punk guest commentating.
You know, I never bought into that guy. I've never been a CM Punk fan.
he's a good speaker. Wrestling, he copies other people's matches. His match against Darby Allin was exactly the same match as Bret Hart and 1, 2, 3 Kid.
He
I mean,
looks
that's
like the dude
just
at the end of the bar over here at my place.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Champions.
Where are you hanging out, Ken?
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I mean, champions are, and Ric Flair, you go back and like Ric Flair was never in really good shape either. He wasn't a big dude like The Rock or
Right.
like, Triple H or, you just kind of like, if I want a champion, I don't want him to look like my mechanic.
Right. Right. This guy's changing oil at Jiffy Lube. And
Exactly.
That looks like Aaron
No
Rodgers
knock
there.
against
Right
Jiffy
now.
Lube.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really excited when he made when he came back.
Came back. That was the most
You hear that
electrifying.
music
That was,
hit?
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome.
I wish I was there because I was in Chicago. It was Labor Day weekend, and I was just like, I should have went.
Should have
Yeah.
gone, huh?
United Center. I mean, it was like you don't get that kind of electricity at a wrestling event, especially this day and age.
Right.
I mean, you were at Money in a Bank. I mean, you could feel it.
Yeah.
I was at a couple of WrestleManias, and like just watching his return, seeing my recliner, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Were you expecting it? Was it
Yeah.
unexpected?
It was. Well, you
At that
knew he
point,
was
it was,
coming.
it was pretty much the cat was out of the bag. Pretty
Yeah.
much. Even at
They leaked it out. But
even at watching the Bears game.
Mhm.
During the Bears game, one of the announcers was said, this crowd's just about as excited as they're going to be, this Friday when CM Punk makes his return. And I'm like, oh, okay. So my thought though is, if it was in Chicago, does it pop like that?
I think it still does. I mean, it depends where it's at, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's very intentional. Hometown
Mhm.
crowd, got the buzz going. He's going to be there, giving out free ice cream bars.
Right.
Tickets are like $5 to fill
Mhm.
up the stadium.
Mhm.
So it was very intentional. It was exciting,
Right.
for sure. And honestly,
and having the same shirt that he was very
Uh-huh.
popular with
yeah,
Thunderbolt.
it's an awesome shirt. They shut down the internet basically.
Shut
right?
down, and then they couldn't even get the black arena shirts anymore. It was just a white plain T-shirt they had to start selling.
Yeah, it was definitely exciting. And then I was excited for his first match.
Right.
And then obviously Bryan Danielson
came
and
out.
Adam Cole both
Right.
popped.
And-
Weren't really expecting. And Ruby Soho all
Right.
came.
They all came the same night. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what are you doing?
Yep.
Like, what do we have to look forward to in our next show? I mean, you have them all at the All or Nothing pay-per-view, and
All or
what's your
nothing.
next thing? And now it's
They went all in on that one.
who's the next big name?
Right.
And for me, I don't really have that next big surprise name. I mean, yeah, you may get like a Braun Strowman
Bray
eventually
Wyatt.
or Bray Wyatt. Yeah, Bray Wyatt will probably be the biggest.
Yeah.
Mike,
I think so.
Yeah.
If he comes and it's probably pretty likely he'll make an appearance
Mhm.
and end up there. But then again,
Be the leader
What
of
do
the
you-
Dark Order. And,
what do you do though? So now you got CM
Mhm.
Punk, you got Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole,
Mhm.
Bray Wyatt, probably Keith Lee.
Mhm.
Like,
Eventually Kevin
yeah,
Owens.
right.
and,
So it's just another. So it's going to be WWE's third or fourth show that they're going to basically have, just call it something else. So I don't know. I think that there's something to be said about not doing that. Like, don't bring everyone over. I don't care how big a star they are.
That's why I feel bad for Rusev, where when he left, he was never getting a proper push in WWE, even though he was over with the crowd. And over means like when the fans are really behind you, supporting you no matter what. And like where they try to, WWE will sometimes try to hide him so he doesn't get that kind of attention. But the fans are like, no, we want Rusev. And Rusev Day was huge.
It was.
And like you thought like maybe, okay, he goes to AEW, maybe he'll get a shot like Ambrose did, and just never happened. And now with all these new guys coming back or new guys coming over, I mean, he's falling down the line again.
Yep. Exactly. So it reminds me actually. So Ruby Soho, Ruby Riott from WWE, and then all of a sudden, Charlotte's not happy in WWE, and is she going to leave? Is she going to go to be with her boyfriend or husband, Andrade? And just there was some memes. Ruby Soho like hearing that Charlotte Flair is coming here. Great, here I go again, being buried by this star. So yeah. Anyways, again, pick them up all you want, but I think that they are. They should focus on Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, like their talent. I think aren't ex-WWE.
Adam Cole is a huge steal from WWE, and of course Bryan Danielson. I mean, I know like we talked earlier, you said like, he's got the same moveset over and over again, but
I mean they all really do, right?
Yeah, I mean they all you have their set moves. Rod had the Russian leg sweep, mid elbow drop, and set up for a sharpshooter with backbreaker.
Yeah. Of course, but to me, the Bryan Danielson, if you close your eyes and you don't know that you're watching AEW,
right?
And let's say they don't even mention who he's fighting. It's like you're listening to WWE. He brought the exact same matches over, so there's nothing new and exciting about it. Change his name. He's got his music's cooler, I guess. It's got a little bit of some bass to it.
Now they were smart with him going against Omega and having it be a time limit draw.
Yeah, sure.
That was probably their smartest thing to do, not to have either one win or lose, to keep them both strong characters. But again, it's like what's the storylines with them? There's no real, like CM Punk has no storyline right now.
Yep.
It's just let's put him with this guy and
let his name carry him.
Yeah. That's my beef with AEW, to be honest, is like people love the idea that every week it's a different opponent, it's a different match, it's something fresh.
Right.
But when it's the same guy doing the same moves to a different guy that I don't know,
right,
and there's no story, I'm not tuning in for that, So I don't know. They had me, and then they kind of dropped the ball lately. But anyways,
you want to tune into a good fight. You want to see somebody getting punched. You want to see a little blood. You want to see. You know what I mean? You want to follow the storylines, but let's be honest. I want to see two guys just sitting there beating each other.
Yeah, but I want to know why they're beating each other up, though, too.
That's what I mean.
You see a couple guys get into a fight or an argument happening down the hallway. What's going on over there? Like, you want to know what's going on. If nothing was going on and it's just Megan and Tabitha yelling at each other next door over here for no reason, then shout out Happy Home next door here.
Happy Home and Office.
Happy Home and Office.
They don't fight. They're great at what they do.
They are. Yes, they are.
And that was nice about like WWE back in our days, where they used to set up storylines where, okay, SummerSlam, this is going to be the main event. These are the matches we're going to have at SummerSlam. Now, how do we build up to that? And now it's just, they just throw stuff together and none of it makes sense. And how many times did Big Show become a good guy, bad guy in the same night?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
But that's the fun part of it is, okay, you tuned in to see, is he good or bad this week? What's happening?
And how many times does Vince change his script and throw it away right before Raw? And
it's like, that's what we hear, right? So it's just what we hear.
That's it.
We don't know what's.
Are you is that ready? The excuses why it's so bad, or?
Hey, think you can tell us what to do?
DX.
You think you can tell us what to wear?
I actually like. Did you ever hear the Run DMC
you
version?
Think that you're better?
That's probably my favorite.
Well, you better get ready.
I think in late '90s, early 2000s, they made
Bow to the masters.
After the Russian album.
Break it down.
And that was one of the remakes. That's probably like my favorite. When I go run on a treadmill, I'll listen to that one. There's a beat to it.
we're right about the halfway mark. This is where we talk best worst. All right. So, question this week is the best bad boy group, right? Villain group, not guy, but group of people that there were, and the worst. Which is it?
Worst in terms of just you didn't want to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It wasn't a good storyline. You were like, oh, God, not these guys again. And then the best. I mean, D Generation X, you knew they came out. You know, I got 2 tears in a bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Worst watching was Dungeon of Doom.
Dungeon of Doom.
I cannot handle them. Like
Kevin Sullivan.
Kevin Sullivan, the
Sullivan,
Taskmaster,
yeah.
and I was just
They
like,
had what's his name? It was Earthquake in WWE, but the Oddities.
the Oddities. I remember them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
was bizarre. Right?
I forgot
very
about
bizarre.
those guys.
Yeah, a lot of weird groups out there, but the best. That's a tough one because
Is it
DX is up there,
Ooh.
but
NWO back in the day.
Yeah.
So
Four
that's where I'm
Horsemen,
going, actually. So not NWO where there's a million people a part of it, but I'm
The
talking
original.
core NWO. Maybe even add 6 or X-Pac to it, and they started getting a couple guys to it.
Yeah.
But once everyone joined, it was like
overwatched.
it was over. But that group, the NWO, is that's what won the Monday Night Wars. Was that
changed
group.
wrestling right
DX
before
was
the
their
internet,
answer.
and
DX was the
popular.
answer, and DX pushed the envelope
yeah.
even more.
Sally says Evolution or DX.
Oh yeah. So she knows a thing or two.
Yeah.
So Evolution Star Power there is that's a good one. That's really good. And for people who maybe not know, that's Ric Flair, Triple H, Randy Orton, and Batista.
Batista.
So that's a strong
That is a good
group there.
See, like my
For
favorite, because I'm always going to be biased, was the Hart Foundation in the late '90s, where you had Brett, his brother Owen, the brother-in-law Jim, Ample Neidhart, and British Bulldog, and then they had Brian Pillman in there too.
Right.
And I mean, that was actually blood family. And Brian Pillman was involved because he trained in the dungeon with them.
Yeah.
And with them, and they were so unique in terms of they were bad guys only in America.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to Canada or overseas,
all around the world.
the world loved them.
Yeah.
And that was for me like one of the more unique ones, and they helped push DX. Like that initial feud with DX catapulted them.
Yeah.
That's where Brett, he's like, you guys are a bunch of degenerates in opening a Raw or whatever. He's yelling at Shawn Michaels and stuff, and that's how they came.
That's
to
how
be.
they came with that. Yeah.
And for me, like that was the more creative one they've done. But yeah, like NWO changed everything.
See, and I go way back to the Four Horsemen.
Oh yeah, of
Right?
course.
I mean,
Which stable?
yeah,
right. There's been a variety of.
I
them,
mean, the
but,
original, right? The original. They were
JJ.
on Georgia Championship Wrestling and Mid Atlanta, whatever. You know, they were these guys, Arn Anderson, the boys, and the reason I loved them is because none of them. I mean, they just look like drunk guys at a bar that whoop your ass.
Pretty much.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about them. But man, when you heard the music or you got them going.
Yeah.
You know, and Arn's out there with his glasses.
Yeah. Right.
He looks like my
And not
English
just any
teacher.
glasses. Right. He got his trifocals on there.
Right. It was great.
One of the, maybe controversial groups would be like Nation of Domination. But that was the birth of The Rock, as we know The Rock, what he became. But then
Chubby
also
Rock.
one of the worst be when they took Owen Hart. All of a sudden Owen Hart is with this group.
Right.
Like,
How did that
what
work?
are you doing?
Oh yeah, he's good friends with them, but like,
Yeah, like something's off here.
Sally says, worst I'd say XFactor minus X-Pac, even though he was part of it, because he's just badass, period, end of story. But they sucked as a faction. Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about. To be honest, X Factor.
Nelson, how are you, man?
hey Nicole.
I mean, the DX though, in that early 2000s, they were the shizzle for sure. They were,
Absolutely. And then when Shawn Michaels got hurt and Triple H took over, then there was another formation with the New Age Outlaws
New Age Outlaws,
and
right.
X-Pac. So that's probably who she's intending to talk about there. But, DX, NWO, without those, wrestling was kind of on a downward spiral
Yeah.
until the
Right.
creation of until they started pushing the envelope. There in
And
the
the
late
reality
90s.
aspect of it. And,
when Hogan went rogue, went dark.
Mhm.
Right? That was
So no,
amazing.
it was an actual faction. X-Pac, Just Incredible, and Albert.
Oh, Albert. I actually ran into
Like Prince
Albert in
Albert?
Tempe.
Is that right?
That guy is one hairy dude. No hair on top of the head, but that man, he was wearing a man sweater, you know.
Do you know what a Prince Albert is?
Hey,
Oh.
it's
Well, that's what he was called for a long time.
that's right. It's
Yeah.
Oh, he's also on
Yeah.
TNA
With what?
with
tobacco.
Test, yeah.
It's tobacco.
TNA, that was good. That was
Trish
Stratus.
Stratus was the manager,
Oh,
yeah.
Trish,
thank
right?
you, Albert and Test.
Hmm.
So Nelson says Kevin Nash, Razor Ramon, Hogan, and X-Pac. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
NWO.
He flicked that toothpick razor.
Uh-huh.
Hey, yo.
Uh-huh.
Well, what's funny is like when the Outsiders first came into WCW, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, Diesel.
Yeah. Easy.
Kevin Nash said like what they would do is they actually had one bat that was real. It was a real aluminum bat, and Scott Hall would have the prop bat. So you can hit someone, it doesn't really hurt as much. So like when Kevin Nash is coming to the ring and he's baiting
You hear
the steel cages, it kind of gave some people the like, oh, what's going on?
Shit, yeah.
And the cops there too, like they come in the security, like they had their guns ready to draw on these guys because they're not always part of the storyline, and they got to do their job
Yeah.
when they're told to do something. But yeah, it's kind of funny hearing that backstory of when the Outsiders first were invading WCW and how very few people knew what was going on
Right.
to keep the reality of the real reactions of these other wrestlers going like, what are we supposed to do?
I was watching one of the documentaries, and I didn't know that Scott Hall actually killed a guy
Oh,
in
yeah.
real life.
Mhm.
He was a security guard, bodyguard
I
at
didn't
a
know
strip
that
club,
either.
and he's dating one of the strippers, and this other guy is jealous and finds him out in the parking lot, and they're scuffling over the
Mhm.
gun, and one thing leads to another. He actually killed a guy. It's
Mhm.
part of what led to his
Drinking.
addictions and
Mhm.
drinking and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, which that's been a hot topic kind of. John Moxley or Dean Ambrose checked himself into
Rehab,
some rehab. So here's a guy, star, possibly going to a championship. He's in the championship tournament.
Right.
Has to leave. New baby at home, new
Right.
wife, and struggling. So it's just these guys, they're real people.
Yeah.
They go.
Yeah,
they go
real
through
people,
it.
but it's amazing, because again, we talk about their athleticism, how they keep their bodies in shape, and to have an addiction like alcohol or whatever, you would think they would look like me, right? But and you're just like, how do you balance that out? And
Yeah.
man, that is amazing.
And it's like reading some of their memoirs from their books of back in the 80s, 90s when they're traveling from town to town and they finish a show and go meet at the bar. And there's some funny stories about how they go and they stole the Nature Boy's hotel room. He
Right.
never showed up and they're just urinating over his bed and doing wrestling moves at Vince, who's hammered, and
Right.
just pick him up, slam him through a bar table. And
That's fantastic. Oh, but when you're on the road and you're doing how many shows a week, right? And then there's taping,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of times,
long day. And,
yeah, you're taping on a Wednesday for a Friday show,
Mhm.
and you just got off a Monday night, and you haven't even had time to ice down. Now you go to the NFL, right? The NFL plays Sunday. They don't go into the office on Monday.
Right.
They're all in ice baths, and
Yeah.
ibuprofen, and so they rest on Monday, show up on Tuesday to watch film.
Mhm.
They don't put the pads back on until Thursday, so there's some rest time.
Right.
Well, with this, you're banged up, broken rib, and hey, let's put an ace bandage around you.
Oh, and on top of all that too, it's
Where did that become a thing?
I don't
Fix
know.
everything.
Right.
These guys walk around bandages everywhere. Like, okay.
on top of that too, what people don't realize is in the NFL, Major League Sports teams, they have buses that transport you.
Yeah.
These guys have to get a rental car to go from town to town.
Town to town.
So you get like a guy or two, another
or you're flying
wrestler.
from town to town in the NFL.
If and some of these wrestlers who got the money can do that, but the other ones, they're all taking rental cars from town to town. Like as soon as their match is done, some of them shower and just start going so they can go get their workout in
Yeah.
and be ready for their next show.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
pretty amazing what they do, put themselves through. And
I mean, 300 days a year, like I know pre-COVID, it was 300 days a year. They're on the road. COVID kind of probably helped some of them add years to their lives and wrestling, but
Sally says just the hype too, coming down off the adrenaline is hard for them. So a lot of the addictions come from chasing that feeling. It's very tough lifestyle. I mean, you're ramped up, amped up. You're like, I gotta get some sleep. Let me drink a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Painkillers, whiskey.
Or I just became the champion. Where's the after party at?
That's it. That's it. Oh yeah. I hoisted the belt, right? So, question for you guys is, who do you think is the best talent that their life ended too soon? So we've had a lot of deaths in this.
Owen
sport,
Hart,
right? And who is that person that you go, man, they were right on the precipice, and then their life ended too soon?
Well, yeah, Owen Hart.
Owen would be, but in terms of, I mean, that was an accident.
Yep.
It wasn't kind of like overdose kind of stuff. Like Kerry Von Erich, Texas Tornado.
Yeah.
He was the big up and comer. What was his name? He was back in the 80s.
Nelson
WCW.
says Ultimate Warrior. Which one? Pete says, I learned the hard way that pile drivers and pressure points are not acceptable moves in high school wrestling. At least not in the 80s.
Well, you think like Magnum TA, he was the superstar up and coming in the 80s. He had the body, he was like the pre-Hulk body, and I think it was a motorcycle accident or something like that. Just ended too soon. And
Eddie Guerrero,
very good. Sally,
Eddie was right on it, right? Latino Heat. He was right there.
That's a really good answer, actually. I like that. Good job, Sal. Tragically, obviously, a much bigger story than just the death, but Chris Benoit.
That's where I was going.
He was awesome.
Right. I love Benoit.
Right there with Eddie Guerrero, right?
Incredible.
But again, who knows what was going on in his head?
The Rabbit Wolverine.
It turns out he actually was. That was pretty crazy.
Right.
And there was like an old video of Arn Anderson doing a promo, like talking about like just Benoit as a wrestler and kind of like preluding that kind of mentality. I was like, kind of freaky when you go back and look at it.
I mean, he was right there. He was right on the edge of being crowned, right?
Yep.
And the reason I brought that up is I remember seeing him with the ace bandage around his wrist.
He did have that.
And the guy was built like a brick shithouse, right? I mean, you're like, what's that bandage doing for you?
Yeah.
He was a bad man,
right? And
he was right. I mean, and he was at that point ready to take over WWE, and man,
now they don't mention him.
Oh, that was at the point where he was dropped down to ECW, and he didn't like that.
Didn't like that at all.
He felt that was a demotion and other mental stuff going on.
I mean, John Cena was the ECW champion, I think. So whatever.
But he just went from world champion, and it's kind of what you're saying with these cuts and stuff. I mean, it's just the nature of business. Sometimes you gotta get away, and when they miss you, you come back.
Yeah. I mean, but to me, that's where I would go. I would go Benoit because, man, he was right there. I mean, Guerrero too.
Right.
I mean, he was crazy with Latino Heat.
Oh yeah,
that was hysterical. The lion cheating, and stealing.
Yeah,
and
right.
It was great. Him in China.
Oh yeah,
they had,
Mamacita.
Mamacita.
He'd throw the chair at the guy, and the guy would catch it, and he just lay on the ground.
Like he got hit.
Right.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Right.
That was actually
It was creative. It was hysterical. It was fun. It was entertaining.
China had a big dick. It was bad.
Yeah. No, Triple H didn't.
Triple H didn't mind.
That's all right. And Triple H, we appreciate you.
Luke Harper.
Yeah, I was going to say most recently is
Luke Harper.
Brody Lee.
So another, a cut, right? From WWE. Ended up in AEW and started making a name for himself, and then just too soon, right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
And that's where the rumors there were Bray Wyatt's going to come and possibly be the new leader for the Dark Order to fill his place, friend's place. And
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's the nuts of it is when you get that and shit happens. I mean, life happens and you get so invested, right? As a fan, it was a super tragic mess. Chris Benoit.
Right.
But I mean, you get so invested that like you spent so much hours that you know them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like I you know, like when Eddie died, you were like, what?
Right.
Mhm.
And you Google 6 things. You're like, wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
This can't be right.
Right.
Yeah, because I was at the right before WrestleMania in Chicago.
Yes.
It was like November or something. It was around this time of
Yeah,
year.
right
Yeah.
about this time. And it just takes your breath away because you're like, man, I just spent 10 years with this guy,
Right.
watching him build, get better, you know, and you're just like,
Mhm.
it's like losing a friend.
Right.
It's hard, you know, and that's the crazy thing about it. You know, and Benoit, he was a guy I never hated, but he was, you know, because you're like, you could have, but you're just like, he's just a tough little son of a bitch.
Yeah, he was I didn't hate him. I didn't necessarily care for him
Right.
either, but you knew there was going to be a
I did
good
like
match.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, yeah, I remember I was working out at Wrigley Field when that happened, and it was just like, and a lot of the ball players, they're wrestling fans too, and it's like we're just kind of like, what the hell? And it was just very surreal.
Mr. Perfect, did he? Yeah.
Yeah, cocaine in 2002, I think it was cocaine overdose.
He was awesome. We were talking about.
Is he up there? Do we have him up there, Mr. Perfect?
Mr. Perfect,
Yeah,
right here.
he's
Look
right
at that!
there.
There he is.
There we
Hey,
go.
man.
We were
He's
talking.
actually wearing. That's the singlet that I think maybe it was that Bret Hart beat him in
BMS,
at
SummerSlam
SummerSlam's
91.
first Intercontinental Championship.
And he was in bad shape during that match, and he wanted to put Bret over, and that's kind of like a lot of respect for Kurt Hennig for what he did.
Yeah, that was the rocket ship for Bret Hart
Bret
to become the future star. Yeah, man, I forgot what I was going to say.
We were talking earlier about Mr. Perfect,
Yes.
how we both like to chew gum, and we do the exact same thing with our gum.
Spit it
out and whack it and see how far it goes. Yep.
I kick it.
It's amazing though. So it's not hard to do that.
Right.
But the guy literally did it every single
All the
time.
time.
Didn't miss.
It was
One of the
cool.
best vignettes they had was
Right.
Mr. Perfect, and he's perfect. So he's in the basketball court and he's throwing the basketball half court over his head.
Swish.
Nothing but net.
Right.
Those are so awesome.
Throwing the football 100 yards,
100
catching
yards,
it
catching it
himself,
throwing it to himself.
That is great.
bowling the
right?
perfect game. And,
Yeah.
Kelsey says, "LOL."
hey, Kelsey, my favorite
Yeah,
photographer.
Hey, listen, I don't care. I have talked to you since our last show, and of course, let me tell you something, brother. It airs on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of every month. But the amazing thing is, since our last show, I've talked to so many people, and so many people are like, oh man, yeah, and everybody's got stories, right? It's not just an obsession. This is an American way of life. This is a world way of life because it's big everywhere. I mean, take a look at Mankind, right? I mean, he went over and Mick Foley falling on nails and stuff over in Japan. I mean, doing crazy things. It's worldwide. It's an obsession by everybody. That's why we love this show, is because this brings out, I don't care who you are, this brings out great memories. This brings out, this is Americana right here, man.
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
Americana. Yeah, absolutely.
So I was going to ask you guys, like, who have you met that wrestling wise that you're like, wow, this is surreal and kind of one of those moments? Have you ever experienced that?
Sally, plug your ears, but Alexa Bliss.
Oh, wow.
So I haven't met a lot of wrestlers, but I got my preference when it comes to female wrestlers. I dig her, man. She's pretty cool. And me and Sally and Gabe and Addie waited in line for 3 hours just to get a picture, and the cutest thing happened, actually, and sorry for saying cute on this show, but it was the cutest thing. My daughter, when it was time, we finally got there. We almost weren't able to get in, but the fact that we had kids, she's like, anyone who has kids, I'll stick around to take pictures with the kids. But if you're a creepy guy from wherever, like, you can go ahead and be on your way. Yeah. So my daughter, Addie, goes up to her, and Alexa puts her arms out to give her a hug, and Addie says, you're my biggest fan. And she's like, I am. And she gives her a big hug, and I'm like, that was just pretty cool. But we met Sheamus before. That was pretty cool. And these guys are huge.
Right.
Yeah. And they all look the same size. They don't look that big because they're all huge on the show. But seeing him, Sally actually went and got a autograph and a picture with John Morrison.
Okay.
He was at like a Kmart way back. She didn't really even,
I
don't even know if she really even knew who he was, but I'm like, he's at the, the Kmart, you got to go get an autograph with him. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then she just said meeting Alexa was amazing, and she starstruck her by her too. But she said that just came up in her memories on Facebook today.
Yeah. Yeah,
What about you, Tom?
I have a few.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was Roddy Piper. He was one of the most genuine human beings I've ever met. So some of you know, I used to work for Chicago Cubs back in the early 2000s, and I would sometimes know who's coming to Wrigley ahead of time. And there's a group of us that were old wrestling fans always talking. They're like, "Hey, Piper's coming this day." Like, they won't tell me some of the other guys, but like they knew the wrestlers, they would tell me. And like when Piper came, he's in his kilt, he's in his hot rod shirt, the black leather coat.
Yeah.
He's walking in, and he saw me. I put my hot rod shirt on. I left the clubhouse to go meet him, and he saw me right away and just gave me a big old hug. He's like, "I love you, man." And like, "Hey, Mr. Piper, I got like a bunch of stuff. You mind signing?" He's like, "I'll sign whatever you got, dude." And I had to get stuff for David Eckstein. He was with the Cardinals at that time because we always talk wrestling, and I had to get him stuff. And like, he's like, "Yeah, I'll sign whatever you need for Eckstein." And it's just, that was probably the coolest one.
Yeah.
One I'll always treasure. And then, yeah, sadly he passed away not too many years down the road. But
Nancy, thanks for jumping on here. She says, I met Hulk Hogan once while grocery shopping in Clearwater, Florida. He was the nicest man. He loved when people came up to him to say hi. Never turned anyone away. That's awesome.
That's where he lives. So he's got Hogan's Beach Shop down there. It's you can get autograph stuff there, and occasionally he's in there signing autographs and stuff too. Pretty cool.
Uncle Pete says, I'll never forget meeting Andre the Giant. He was amazingly nice. He also says that Hacksaw Jim Duggins was super cool too.
Yeah.
So here's the deal: is I was living in Iowa at the time. I was working out at a gym in Cedar Rapids, and in walks Raven and Goldberg and DDP. And this, I think, is when DDP and Raven had their big, and they're spotting each other. I was like, what are you guys doing? You hate each other, but they were all really, really cool. They didn't walk in the gym like they were badasses. They just walked in and, said hey to them. They said hey back. They didn't have an attitude or anything. It was really, really, really pretty cool. But the thing that's right when kind of Goldberg was coming on the scene and he never said anything, right? And then he said something, and that's before his voice, his vocal cords were ripped out and whatnot, and the voice didn't match the body. And I was like, what? Because he didn't say anything. He'd just do that. And when he spoke, I was like, no wonder you don't say any words. He was kind of a Mike Tyson-ish type of thing. He was just like, what in the world? So, yeah. But all of them were just polite, just cool, didn't have an attitude, just like, hey, we're just here to get, pre-show, weight, lift on, and let's go, and they were all super cool. But it blew my mind because I'm like, DDP, you and Raven hate each other.
Yeah.
What are you both doing here? You guys should
storyline. Like, what the?
you guys should be killing each other right now. Yeah. So and Kelsey says, I didn't know you worked for the Cubs.
Me neither. None of us did.
Right.
That's why they took 100 years to win. And Nelson says, me either. Yeah. And the Sox are always better than the Cubs. Anyway, go ahead.
Except for tipping.
But I mean, that's the amazing thing about wrestling is everybody's got a story.
Right.
I don't care who you are. I haven't met somebody yet, maybe my mom, right? But she knows wrestling because we watched it all the time. Growing up, but we would eat homemade pizza Saturday nights in front of the TV on our TV trays. Now, TV trays, for those who are young, weren't born in the 1900s. These little trays you'd set up in front of your chair like a table. But we would sit there, and the whole family would gather around the TV and watch Gordon Soley and Georgia Championship Wrestling. Hey, Mike, how are you, buddy? Good to see. Maybe that's Derek, Keith, or Vic. Anyway, it's Dream Home Experts. Nice guys, welcome in.
Love your apparel, guys.
Always. Bowling shirts, they look good, right?
Look great.
They look good.
So do those cups.
That's it. They look absolutely great. So what's coming up in the next 2 weeks that we can look forward to or be prepared for the next show?
Next show, we're discussing. We're going Survivor Series is one of the big 4 pay-per-views.
Coming in,
We're going to discuss the upcoming one as well as our personal favorites and worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the second oldest pay-per-view that WWE has put on.
Yeah.
Is it 1988 or 87?
Yeah, something like that,
But,
1987. But lots of big things have happened. Lots of debuts. I suppose we can save those for the next show.
Yeah.
But a couple, arguably the biggest names that ever come out of WWE actually made their premieres during Survivor Series. So
yes,
we'll talk about that and where it's come. You know, how cool it was and how cool it's not anymore. But it can be. But the creation of just a little backstory: Survivor Series, team versus team. At first, I think it was 5 versus 5,
Right,
and you got these people collaborating that you always wanted them to, and only this time during the year, your dream teams, your Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior pairings and teams, and lots of cool stuff. And then it's whatever team is.
Do we know the teams that are coming up this year?
They got a few listed. I think is there one mystery team or one mystery partner? Or are they all full
they're
now?
Settling that I think on Monday.
Okay.
For the final spot.
Oh yeah, Dominic Mysterio's spot is now up for grabs.
Yeah. So the way they did it this year, and we'll talk about it, but they just kind of, to me, it seems last minute. Just kind of threw some teams together, but
they cut
it should still be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they only got 20 people left, so it's whatever, piece it together. But pretty cool. So the cool thing nowadays with it is people who actually have beef with each other end up on the same team because they're representing a brand now, either Raw or SmackDown.
And in lies the rub, right? I mean, then that's the storyline. Is okay. Are they going to work together? Or are they not?
They're going to turn on each other. They're going
to. Yep. See, it's brilliant, right?
Yeah, it is.
And I don't know. Tell me. We'll talk about it next time. But tell me, as a Survivor Series that you were just like, oh man, I'm sorry, I bought this one. Right,
Goblin Gooker.
But no, that was one of the most epic Survivor Series ever. So, now that was a big womp.
That was the biggest letdown.
Yeah. So So one of that one had one of the biggest letdowns, but also one of the biggest moments in WWE history.
Right.
That's pretty cool. I don't know. As far as
is there some like in the late 90s?
I'm sure there was one that was pretty much whenever everything was so
research,
gimmicky,
folks. That's
so gimmicky.
That might be the best worst next time we get together. Best worst, best
we'll
one,
have
worst
to revisit that stuff, but
that's right.
Probably somewhere 95, 96, maybe when everyone's very gimmicky. But we'll talk about that.
Mark, come on in. We got an empty seat right in the corner. We'll put you in the hot corner.
You take Hogan's spot.
Yeah, you can take Hogan's spot back there in the corner. But we'd love to have you on, of course. And what we'll start doing on the next show is we will throw out a link. So if you want to jump in and jump on. We'll put a link out there for you guys to come in and be able to give us your thoughts too. I think that'd be fun to get some of the people out there who are listening and whatnot to join in and say, hey, here's what I think.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be fun. Best worst of Survivor Series.
Yeah,
that could be a good one.
It sounds great.
Yeah, that could be a good one. All right, of course, this is, you've been caught in the net, 216 the net. This is, let me tell you something, brother. Of course, brought to you through our good friends over at the Santos Agency. How do they get in touch with you or the Santos Agency if they want to know about what you do?
Well, at this point, healthmarkets.com/tsantos, or I'm at the office like 14 hours a day. So please just stop in. It's open enrollment. Come and see me.
Just tap him on the shoulder if he's sleeping.
There you go.
He's busy right now. And, of course, Tom's Productions. Tom, how did they get in touch with you?
I just go to tomsproductions.com or you can email me at tom@tomsproductions.com. And, I'm a print broker and decorated apparel and promotional item specialist.
Look at that hat. I mean, the hat
speaks for itself.
Baby, right? That is nice.
Hat, shirt. If Christmas time's coming up, I could do personalized laser gifts all done in-house.
Did it have? I mean,
Quick turnaround.
We've got beautiful We got beautiful like Yetis. They
Yeah.
are camelbacks or whatever you call them.
Polar camel.
Polar camel. I don't know. Or some sort of animal. I don't know, right? And of course, if you have any questions or ideas for the show, or you have questions for these guys, go ahead. Feel free to email us at 216thenet. Just put in, let me tell you something, brother, in the subject line. We'll make sure that Tim and Tom get this, and they will respond to that online, of course, in real time here on the show. But this is, let me tell you something, brother. It's all about wrestling, pro wrestling, the storylines. What a great, great show. And let me tell you something, brother. This is one that you want to make sure that you tune into every second and fourth Tuesday after Anything Goes with Brimmer and Jones. Stop back tomorrow morning for another episode of our good friend Uncle Pete in the Morning. Let me tell you something, brother.